You go. Okay. We now welcome in Garrett Klassy, Athletic Director of Fresno State University. And thank you so much for joining us. I know that you've had a crazy week. You've had to hire some coaches. That is never an easy thing to do. And you have to make a ton of phone calls. Has your week calmed down now that you're kind of here with us, or is this just a respite for you?
Yeah, it has not calmed down. Obviously, we're looking for a women's golf coach and a softball coach right now, and just wrapped up some of those interviews. But that's what makes the job fun is always on the go, and we're chasing down some revenue opportunities too, trying to get a concert in Valley Children's Stadium. So it never ends, but that's part of the great challenge that we have in college athletics.
You guys are joining the Pac-12 in a year. This is always kind of an interesting time in this modern era of last year in the old league, getting ready to go into the new league. What are I don't want to say the challenges, but the goals that lie ahead as you transition out of one and into the new Pac-12?
Well, really, I mean, we're entering this new league, the new Pac-12, to win championships. And so we need to get those resources up to a championship level. And that's what we're working on. And so finding unique revenue streams to get us ready. I mean, by and large, we're going to the new league with, 4 other conference peers from the Mountain West in the new Pac-12. And then we're competing against 2 schools that have historically received around $30 million annually from their conference distributions. So we need to find a way to play catch up with them. But from our standpoint, Fresno State has always won championships in every sport based on the people, not off bells and whistles. And so we're always going to be that Valley DNA where it's grit, blue collar, hard work, outpacing the competition by just sheer will and power. And that formula is not going to change, but I still have to be realistic with our coaches and give them the resources they need to compete at the highest level.
It's daunting, right? Because you're suddenly having to ask for more and you need more and things like that, but also the opportunity is more and the platform potentially is more. What has been the reaction of those in the Valley and the Fresno State diehards about just this move going back to when it was first kind of rumored and talked about to now where you are kind of trying to finalize things? What's the excitement level and the curiosity level been like amongst Bulldogs fans?
I mean, that's the one thing about the Valley and the Bulldog fans. They're always excited. They love their Bulldogs. I feel like Fresno is a Midwestern city dropped right in the middle of California. And so you have blue collar that people that they care about, agriculture, they care about the Bulldogs, and they care about their faith. And it's very similar how I grew up. And so going to league is obviously exciting. But, for them, we've always had a little bit of chip on our shoulder. And so this school has always felt like they could compete at the highest level. And so now we get that opportunity, and now we have to prepare for that opportunity. But, you're seeing Pac-12 flags throughout this town. I mean, people love their Bulldogs. It's, I always knew there's passion in this Valley, but I really underestimated until I was living it and how many people truly care about the Bulldogs and in a region that really has 2.5-3 million people.
You're also, with this transition, one of the things that Fresno State has kind of it's been a bit of a transitional place for coaches where they build up. I mean, you had some for a long time, but it is that era of you guys get really good really fast. You're really good at hiring coaches, and then some people come and take them from you. You've got Matt Entz now. You've made some big moves there. Yeah. How do you foresee that? Is that fine with you guys that you can keep doing that? Or would you like to see, with the Pac-12 move, somebody decide that Fresno State is my program and I'm staying here?
Yeah, listen, ideally, you'd love to have a successful coach that wants to stay here. I mean, after being here almost 11 months, me and my family, we don't plan on ever leaving here. Fresno is an incredible community. We have 2 young boys. We want to raise them here. We have the best leadership in the country with President Jimenez Sandoval that cares about athletics and understands how the athletic brand or athletic success can enhance and increase the brand and the marketing for the university. And of course, we don't want to be considered a stepping stone school. And I took some heat when I hired Matt Entz. Everybody said, well, he's going to win and leave here. Well, you know what? That's better than the alternative. I'd rather have someone win and leave here than someone that we have to dismiss because they're not winning or meeting our expectations. So at the end of the day, we want to win. We don't ever want to be a stepping stone. But as I tell our fan base every single day, if coaches leave, it's not always on the coaches. The coaches need to understand that you're committed to them and you're committed to winning, and you're committed to making them better. And so at the end of the day, sometimes that falls on the administration. And I'm not saying that pertains to Fresno State in the past. I'm just saying they have to know that we're committed, and that's what we plan on doing.
What led you to becoming an athletic director ultimately? I mean, how did your life and kind of career guide you to where you're sitting in that chair that you are right now?
Yeah, funny story. Growing up on a dairy farm in southern Wisconsin, the dairy farms in Wisconsin are definitely not like the dairy farms here in the Central Valley with 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 cows. We had 100 cows, and we were actually a pretty big family farm. And I loved growing up on the dairy farm. It taught me hard work, responsibility. It taught me lessons that a lot of people don't learn anymore. And so I loved it, but I knew that was not my future. And being a student at the University of Wisconsin, luckily a job opened up in the athletic department. And I didn't realize you could have a career in college athletics. See, that was back before every school in the country had sports management degree programs. So I started working, met a mentor of mine, a gentleman named John Sheffield, and he really told me that he thought I had a career in this. And I never had aspirations to be an athletic director. In fact, back in the day, my dream job was to be a ticket director at one of the biggest schools in the country. But the way life goes and you mentor by different people give you different opportunities. And then you learn it's not just the business side of it. It's how you can make an impact on young people's lives. You get to impact kids not for 4 years, but for the rest of their lives. And that education's always been a big part of me. It's why I'm going for trying to get my PhD right now. And it's going to be a big part of my children's lives too. And so to be able to combine all those things, the business aspect, the academic aspect, the winning, the competition aspect, it's just a powerful tool. There's nothing else like it. And so long story short, I loved growing up in the dairy farm, but I knew that wasn't my future. And so this was my only other option. And as I told the president this in the interview process, I know two things: dairy farming and college athletics, and I'm not going back to the dairy farm anytime soon.
Well, look, if you get bored, you can always go volunteer, for somebody there, a mile and a half away from your campus. It's not
we got a dairy right on our campus.
Yeah, so there you go. So
turn out on my lunch break and milk some cows.
You can give your walk by and go, I don't think that's not a good technique.
Yeah, exactly. For example, it's a machine. It's not by hand anymore.
Yeah. Where do you stand on some of the bigger issues facing college football or college athletics, really, all driven by football? Yeah. How they organize the playoff, how the House settlement comes about, collective bargaining. What do you think is the best future that does not separate too far from the pack, and we still have something that looks like college athletics that we know?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I think collective bargaining is probably inevitable. I think where we're at right now, it doesn't matter what comes out of the House settlement. There's going to be lawsuits coming from every single angle, and it doesn't seem like we're close, even though we're getting closer to some federal legislation. We need to get there. And really, my concern is Fresno State. And I keep telling our staff and our coaches this every single day. If we focus on being the best versions of ourselves, everything else is going to take care of itself. I can't worry about the outside noise. Even though we're going to be prepared for this next era of college athletics, doesn't mean we can worry about what's going on in Washington, D.C. or what's going on at the CFP. We need to take care of ourselves. And it's a shame. I mean, listen, this enterprise is so special, but I understand the power of television networks and where we got to where we're going. We just have to prepare for that next level. And I think, listen, at the end of the day, college sports is always going to be special. The alumni of these universities are always going to support these athletic programs. And, our fan base, we're going to pack in 40,000 plus every single game, regardless of this outcome. We just need to make sure that as this world's changing, as college athletics is changing, there's probably going to be 10 more moves in my lifetime on how these things are changing, maybe 30. We just have to make sure we stay on top of it.
I want to go back to Matt Entz for a second, because he's a coach I've followed for a while. He was wildly successful as a coordinator and a coach at North Dakota State, one of the best run football programs in the country. And look, you guys had Kalen DeBoer before you got there, and then he has certainly now being at Washington and Alabama, grown out of it. It seems that there was a crop that wasn't really being farmed all that well until Chris Kleiman and those kind of guys came around. Do you think that now, because of guys like Matt Entz and Kalen DeBoer and Chris Kleiman, that, yes, and there's a huge North Dakota State, vein running through there, Matt Campbell, for crying out loud, that will maybe be a new thing, in that, drilling down into what football success is doesn't necessarily have to be defined at what happens at an A4 conference.
Well, I think that the knock in the past, not that I bought into this, but was that at that level, you couldn't recruit at this level. And quite honestly, with revenue sharing and NIL, that's kind of even the playing field. I think recruiting is still important, and especially the relationship building part, because once these kids are on campus, you keep recruiting them. But I think nowadays, if you can coach football, you can coach football. And listen, when we went through this coaching search, I wanted someone that was tough-nosed, played solid complementary football, control the line of scrimmage, and could fit in this valley. And this is a gentleman that I learned in my short time here at that time, that if you grew up on a small town farm in the Midwest and had the same values as the people in the valley, and that was going to resonate here. And that's exactly who we have in Matt Entz. And I think, listen, and Pat Hill comes to my office all the time. He comes to practice almost every single day. And that's what he always says. If you can coach at one level, you can coach. It doesn't matter. And we're excited to have Matt. He is probably the most detailed coach I've been around in my 30 years in this business. And I joked with him the other day. I said, how did you handle being an assistant at USC last year? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, man, you are so hands-on with the program. It had to drive you nuts that you were actually put in a corner and had to focus on certain areas and not the whole program. And he just laughed. He goes, yep, I was meant to be a head coach, and we're lucky to have him, and we're going to support him the best we can to make sure he can win championships here at Fresno State.
How important do you think this new Pac is for just West Coast or Western states athletics and the representation? And I feel like sometimes it's all just the South and the Big Ten and all of that. Do you grow concerned at all because of all the changes that part of the country maybe gets overlooked or maybe starts to lose a little bit of interest? Or do you think the Pac coming together with all these regional schools and potential rivalries can provide a boost that's much needed out in that part of the country for college sports?
I would say quite to the contrary, because one of the many reasons the five of us from the Mountain West decided to help formulate the new Pac-12 is that if you look at any metric over the last 5 years, the champion of the teams that constitute the new Pac-12 will be the 5th highest rated champion for the CFP. So that means if we maintain our levels and grow our levels, our champion will always be in the CFP. And so for us, that's instant visibility. As I talk to these apparel companies, what's important to them? NCAA tournaments and CFP appearances. And so if we keep doing what we're doing, control what we can control, and we always have a representative every single year in the CFP, that's going to put us on the map. That's going to keep us on the map. And so I think those are the things that's important, the visibility piece. And then the second piece is, it was huge going to the Pac-12 because of Pac-12 Enterprises and the Pac-12 studios. And that gives us a better chance to keep telling our story in a high quality way with the storytellers they have there, with the technology they have in San Ramon. And so those are the things that, this is all about telling your story and how do you enhance your brand. And so I think we have an advantage in other conferences when it comes to that, especially the ones at our level.
What is it? You mentioned Pat Hill. What is it like to have a legend like that comes in, that is still so attached to the program and loves it as much as he does? I mean, he was up for NFL jobs all the time. I think the Raiders wanted to hire him probably 10 times, and he was like, "No, I just love it here in the Valley."
It goes to show you how special this place is, because it's not just Pat Hill. Jeff Tedford still lives in town. Derek Carr moved back here. David Carr lives here. They're at practices all the time. I mean, once you're a Bulldog, it's in your blood, and it just doesn't leave it. But having Pat around has been an incredible help. He still does some color commentary for our radio network for all of our football games. And, I know that he's up there. He's watching film with Zach Crabtree, our offensive line coach. And if you go out to practice, he's like, come on, Garrett, let's go over there. Let's watch the pass rushers. And he gets his nose in there and he's ready to roll. And, it's still in his blood. He loves this place. It's awesome. And it's not just in football. It's basketball. It's softball. It's baseball. The alums come here, they stick around, and they want to keep contributing to this program. It's truly unique. I've never lived anywhere like Fresno.
All right, let me ask you the toughest question before we let you go. You grew up in Wisconsin. You're now in California. Have you found a comfortable cheese medium that can at least make you feel like home, or do you have to get shipments?
Hey, I'm all about dairy. I don't care where it comes from. I love it all. We had a coach's caravan tour in Hillmar, California, next to Turlock, and I found I'm a big cheese curds guy, and they called it squeaky cheese at Hillmar Dairy. But I made sure I brought five of the containers home, and I think my boys had more than I did. So I'm glad that dairy that's in their blood. It's the best. So the dairy industry is absolutely the best. I can't. One of my best friends' wives is the head of the marketing for the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board, and so she gives me heat all the time. California, Wisconsin. I'm going to play a politician and say I love all dairy.
Well, there you go. I'm just curious. I went to Wisconsin the first time, and I could not believe it. And then I wondered, like, how can I go back to the rest of the world, knowing what I know?
So did you have a Spotted Cow beer when you're in Wisconsin?
Oh, I had several. Yeah,
that's my hometown, New Glarus.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
It's the only reason a town of 1,800 people would ever be on the map in Wisconsin is because you have a brewery there.
There we go. Garrett Klassy, Fresno State Director of Athletics. Garrett, thank you so much. Best of luck in the offseason and getting those coaches hired.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Garrett Klassy, Director of Athletics at Fresno State. When we come back,